Have you ever really stopped to think about where shame comes from? I don't just mean in your own life, but in our entire culture. Well, it turns out one of the most dramatic emotional pivots in all of Western literature happens in a single moment, right at the beginning of the book of Genesis. Today, we are going to unpack that one moment to really get to the bottom of shame. Let's dive in. So, our story starts here, in this state of, well, perfect, unthinking wholeness. The text is super clear about it. They were exposed, but there was zero self-consciousness, no feeling of vulnerability, and absolutely no shame. It's a world that, if we're honest, is pretty much impossible for us to even imagine. And that, right there, is the billion-dollar question. I mean, in the span of just a few verses, we go from that total openness to people literally hiding in the bushes, frantically trying to stitch together fig leaves. What on earth happened? This is the mystery that has fascinated thinkers for thousands of years. Yeah, this sudden leap from unashamed to ashamed, that is the core puzzle we're going to investigate. And it's so much more than just an old story. It's a story about a fundamental rewiring of human consciousness itself. So, to find our first set of clues, we've got to go to the source, right? To the great theological traditions that have been wrestling with this for centuries. We're going to look at how Judaism, Catholicism, and Protestantism each offer a really unique and crucial piece of this puzzle. First up, the Jewish interpretation. What's so interesting here is that many Jewish scholars don't see this as a fall into sin at all. Instead, they see it as an evolution of the human mind, a massive shift in how we perceive reality. The brilliant medieval philosopher Maimonides had this incredible take. He said that before the fruit, Adam and Eve lived in a world of objective facts. Being naked was just a truth, like a rock is a rock. But afterwards, they plunged into our world, a world of subjective judgments, social rules, and all the anxiety that comes with good versus evil. Some traditions even have this beautiful idea that they were first clothed in garments of light that just faded, suddenly making them aware of their own fragile physical bodies. Okay, now let's pivot to the Catholic perspective. This view frames the whole event as the loss of something called original justice, this perfect state of inner harmony, where your reason was in the driver's seat and your body and passions just went along for the ride. For heavy hitters like Augustine, shame is the very first symptom of internal chaos. It's the body's mutiny against the spirit. More recently, Pope John Paul II saw it as a change in how they saw each other. Before they saw a person to love, after they feared being seen as an object to use. So in this view, shame is tragic for sure, but it also becomes this necessary defense mechanism, a new boundary to protect our own dignity. And that brings us to our third theological clue, the Protestant view. This one really zeroes in on the broken relationship with God. For Protestants, shame isn't so much about what's going on inside us, but about the new chasm between us and the divine. The reformers, guys like Luther and Calvin, they saw shame as this raw terror that explodes from a guilty conscience. They argued Adam and Eve weren't just hiding their bodies from each other. No, they were trying to hide their entire beings, their very souls, from the gaze of a holy God they had just betrayed. From this perspective, sin instantly poisons everything, and shame is the immediate, painful price you pay. So, okay, let's just pause for a second. We have three very different clues. Is shame about a cognitive shift, a loss of internal harmony, or is it the emotional fallout of a broken relationship with God? Or could it be all three at once? To get any deeper, we actually have to step away from theology for a minute and look at the words themselves. Because it turns out there's a brilliant little bit of wordplay hidden in the original Hebrew, and it's a massive clue to this whole puzzle. Okay, this is so cool. There's a pun here that is completely lost in translation. The Hebrew word for naked is aromim. In the very next verse, the word used to describe the serpent is arum, which means cunning or shrewd. The text is creating a direct link. It's saying they essentially traded their state of innocent nakedness, aromim, for the serpent's calculating wisdom, arum. And it gets even better. The Hebrew word for shame, bosh, is actually related to this idea of being delayed or confused or disoriented. This suggests that shame isn't just about being seen by others, it's about becoming hopelessly tangled up, stuck inside your own head. So this brings us to our final line of investigation, and this is where it all might just click together. What if this ancient story is also a perfect metaphor for a process that every single one of us goes through? Let's look at this through the lens of modern psychology. Psychologists talk about early infancy as the Ouroboros state. It's a time when a baby has no ego, no sense of me versus not me. It just exists in this state of unconscious oneness with everything around it. Does that sound familiar? I mean, it is a perfect parallel to the Garden of Eden. And the parallels just keep lining up. The story of the fall maps almost perfectly onto the birth of the human ego. Eating the fruit? That's the painful dawn of self-awareness. Their eyes opening? That's the moment of the subject-object split. The shocking realization that I am me and you are you, which immediately makes you feel vulnerable. And those fig leaves, well, that's the birth of the persona, the social mask we all learn to wear. So if you look at it this way, shame isn't some ancient cosmic sin. It's actually a crucial, if painful, social emotion. It's the internal alarm bell that rings when we've crossed a social boundary. And without that alarm, the complex cooperation that defines all of human society, well, it might just be impossible. Okay, so let's bring all of this together. We've got our clues from theology, from linguistics, and from psychology. Now we can finally assemble them and see the full picture of what this covering up really truly means. Look at this. What we're seeing is that these two very different perspectives are basically telling the exact same story, just in different languages. Theological nakedness is psychological oneness. Eating the fruit is both a fall and the birth of the ego. The fig leaves are both a way to hide from God and the creation of a social mask. It's the same story. But the story doesn't end there with those flimsy fig leaves. There is one more crucial act. God steps in and provides a more permanent solution, garments of skin. And this, right here, is the final piece of our puzzle. Theologically, this is seen as an act of profound mercy. It's a recognition that in this new, complicated world, a more durable covering is needed. Psychologically, it represents the hardening of the ego. We can't go back to that garden of innocence. We need a permanent boundary, a skin, to protect ourselves as we navigate a complex social reality. Which really just leaves us with one last big question. I want you to think about your own coverings, the personality you show the world, the rules of your culture, the very ego that makes you you. Are these things a punishment for some lost innocence? Are they a merciful adaptation to a tough reality? Or are they simply what it means to be human?